I have a pitch call at 10:45, so let's make sure we get this on time, because I got shit to do like all the day. And here, yeah, such a AWS multiple. Yeah, we're really loving.
Where is my Zoom? I've been really on how's it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I've been really on. I listened to like one of the songs from the beat for like 6 hours straight. I was just up writing and I'm like, this is like enough depressing to keep me down. It's not like it's normal enough for me to keep going. It's really tough.
Oh yeah. Oh, how was the presentation yesterday? Oh shit.
It wasn't bad actually.
It wasn't bad? Oh shit. Sorry I missed it, man. I've been all over the place lately. Nice. Okay. Well, this one's gonna be a little bit more of a interactive, I think, personal one. It's gonna be, I'm gonna tell you some stories. We're gonna deploy an AI model on the web. Yeah. Mess around with some AWS things. Hopefully you don't lose all your money, because you gotta make sure, I'm gonna remind you again. Make sure you guys will be
By the way, everyone, if you log into your UCLA accounts and AWS,
They give you every year free. Yes, please use your UCLA accounts.
Wait, do I still have to fill in my payment thingy or?
No.
Yeah.
No, okay.
But they won't sell.
Okay. So yeah, I didn't go in anything.
I did this AWS stuff. I think they won't sell.
Oh, chill. Is that Jin? Yes, it's in the Zoom. Is that Jin? He should really change his thing, huh? Jin wants to learn. Hello, Jin.
Everybody signed in.
No.
Take it up.
So yeah, I'm just gonna ask you to set up something, which will take like it'll take you a few minutes to set up. And then once we're done with that, we're gonna go straight to the presentation. I'm gonna talk to you guys about AWS and MVPs. And then after that, we're gonna go back and actually deploy something. I don't know what I just watched. I don't know what I just saw. I really don't know what I just saw.
Everybody ready? We're good? Take your time, take your time.
Take over. Okay. Hold on. Pull up your something else. What? Something happening. What's your something? Oh no.
Yeah, log into your AWS console. Let's search up AWS console in Google and then click the first link to log you in.
Okay.
And yours should look relatively similar to this.
You do UCLA account. I'll give you a year.
Literally, you want to ask something, Aiden.
You know what, like Amazon patch thing? I know you used to be able to get like 2 free student primes.
Yes.
By using your UCLA.edu, then use your g.ucla.edu.
See, I don't know. I think they patched it.
No, you can. But just
It takes some time to
Yeah.
your g.ucla.
It'll take you a little bit.
But I think the moment you link your credit card, it knows, right?
No, I have one credit card linked to 14 W's AWS accounts. It's not great. It's really not great. I should tell you about that. It's really not good. I have a spreadsheet of like there's a notion. I have like for my project I'm running, there's a notion which is the corners we've cut. And it's 4 pages of legal concerns. And one of them is I have one credit card linked to 14 different accounts.
What's that? Credit card?
I don't got that many credit cards. Dude. We all good?
Can you send the agent or everybody goes to the
So really like yesterday presentation the hardship. Yeah. No. Did you do it?
No, actually,
You should. Okay, they're going.
Right, we're good? I want to keep moving. So on your search bar, where's my mouse? You should go search up SageMaker. And you click Amazon SageMaker. And you should go to something called domains. I already have a domain set up, but if you just click new domain or click setup domain, it will just set you up to like it'll set you up to some kind of quick setup domain, which is what you need. And in there, it should be, you should have a user. So it'll take you a couple minutes. Yeah. So, oops. Actually, let me. Yeah, create domain. You want to create a new domain. Basically, what a domain is in SageMaker is a collection of your resources. So what you'll do is when you deploy something, you deploy it underneath the domain, and you can deploy multiple products, train multiple models, and do everything. It's basically have a domain per project, or have a domain for like something.
That is storage basically.
Yeah, it's like a folder. Think of it as a folder that
Docker or something like that?
not exactly is you can have if you have multiple Dockers in the domain.
Okay.
So like in Docker terms, it would be like a grouping or collection. It's the same idea. So yeah, but you need to have at least one domain that you link everything to. It's the way SageMaker works in terms of organizing like materials.
And once everybody's done with that, we're going to move to the presentation. It'll take like 5-6 minutes to set up. And so I'll go through the presentation in the meantime, and then, yeah, and then we'll go back to this and we'll actually deploy out the product or like an MVP of one. What's up?
So I see in services, there's like 5,000 services that are there for AWS.
Yeah.
Do you know which ones are the most used?
I use EC2, I use SageMaker, Lambdas are really useful. Gateway, API gateways, like one of my go-tos.
What EC2?
EC2 is like, it's, we call it a compute unit.
Sometimes AWS sucks in this documentation. The best way you can actually learn about AWS is you can get a solutions architect on top. I'm not even joking. A solutions architect, we have 4 solutions architects assigned to our school. You can call them. You can set up a Zoom meeting. They're required to have 3 hours of Zoom meetings open per day per client. So you can just call a solutions architect and ask them questions.
Damn.
But once you, recommendation is when you pick one solutions architect, you get to know them really well. They'll help you throughout no matter what. Like Chris is helping me with that. Yeah, no, Chris is lovely. Chris is the one that me and actually had for our project. And he's not even legally required to work with us or anything, but he's still helps me. We'll have something like an hour call once a week with him. So no, they're literally paid to help people. And some like the ones assigned, no, the ones assigned to school, they get paid 240K to help people, dude. They're rich. They're rich, dude.
And AWS is like
Hard as hell, yeah. It's really hard, but you can, our school has 4 solutions architects assigned to them. You can literally shoot them an email, be like, hey, I have this problem with this thing. Can we hop on a call? And they're going to set you up. Chris even gave me like 5K worth of free credits.
really.
Yeah, he was super nice. I loved him.
I've got a call.
No, he will help us out, dude. So yeah. All right, everybody set up click domain.
Still running.
No, yeah, just ignore that for now. So it's gonna take a while to set up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go straight to the presentation. So today we're gonna do a lot on deploying AI-based MVPs. So let me click this, sorry. So let's go through what the agenda is today. We're going to start with why is this presentation important? We're going to go into how we're going to use MVPs in the industry and why it's important for you to know there and when you're going to use it. So let's start with the context. The context of this is that I want you to learn 3 ultimate goals from this presentation. Let me move this little green thing away. I want you to get out of this presentation understanding why MVPs are important to you. I want you to learn how to plan an AWS deployment of an MVP. And then we're going to walk through an exercise that will show you how to do like a REST API deployment, just so in case you're ever in a situation where you need to get something up really quickly. So let's start with the context. This is the standard kind of consultant pipeline. You start with assessing your client's needs, you plan out a solution, you implement the solution, and then you optimize it with a client. In the context of where we are in the implementation for this presentation. I'm going to show you how to start out with the first stage of the implementation pipeline, which is a technical demonstration on an MVP. This will serve to help you throughout the rest of your implementation when you're talking about client relations and like demonstrations and stuff. So let's start with what an MVP is. So MVP comes from startups. It's a concept that startups brewed when they first launched. And it's kind of a bare bones product with some features to attract early adopters. This basically means you're focusing on one core feature. You're demonstrating one thing that brings value. And it has, 3 main benefits. The first one is that it aligns our vision with the client's vision. We can describe products and ideas all that we want, but nothing is as helpful as throwing on something and be like, look, is this what you want? MVPs let you do that. MVPs let you throw on something on the screen and say, hey, can you play around with this idea of mine and tell me if this is what you want or not? The second thing is that it helps you collaborate with like stakeholder feedback. Basically, what that means is that once you've thrown on something on the screen, you can ask them, hey, what do you like about this MVP? What do you not like about this MVP? What can we change? For example, if I throw on something about natural language detection, right? Or about sentiment analysis, I can ask them, hey, what do you like about this model? They might tell me it works well on general cases, but doesn't work well in finance terms. And we need it to work better on finance terms. It works well in XYZ, but we need it to work well in Y. It's the easiest way for you to get feedback because they can, again, give you feedback on a plan all they want, but nothing's going to be as good for you in terms of implementing feedback as getting it about a product. Yes, actually.
Everybody have shared the slides on the Slack so you can follow with it.
Yeah. So this is a big thing as well. Teams have fallen apart because of lack of visualizing feedback. Not having something in front of you in terms of like, oh, look at this and tell me what to do better will kill you. And I've been in boardrooms, I've been in meetings where like a good MVP has changed the direction of governments. Like all my projects, when it comes to government projects, and all my projects that have incorporated more than 40 people have been revolving around an MVP. And to give you a general good rule of thumb, an MVP plus around 2 minutes of a pitch should be enough to convince anybody in your client's organization of its value. I have given MVP plus pitches to janitors. I've given MVP plus pitches to CEOs. I've given an MVP plus pitch to ministers. Just having an MVP and some kind of pitch, and honestly, not even too long of a pitch, should be enough to convince anybody of its value. And so this is why we emphasize pitching so much. And we'll talk more about how to talk about value later on in this little workshop training, like last couple of weeks. But if your MVP plus pitch isn't enough to do that, then you're doing 3 things wrong. The first thing you're doing wrong is your MVP isn't narrow enough. Remember, you're focusing on one core feature which will demonstrate value. The second thing you're doing wrong is your pitch isn't good enough. We'll talk more about why your pitch isn't good enough later. The third thing you're doing wrong is that you're not demonstrating your MVP correctly. You might implement the most impressive technical feature, but if I can't show an executive and they understand it, I'm demonstrating my MVP wrong. Your MVP isn't only about technicalities. This is where a lot of people mix things up. Do not only focus on technicalities. Focus on demonstration. MVP is about demonstrating the value of your features. So, and the last big benefit is rapid prototyping. Again, when you have a bare bones one feature you're working on, it's a lot easier to implement changes. When you have a huge system that you're trying to build all the time, it's a lot harder to get changes through. A small product, a small MVP is enough for you to, is a lot better when you're talking about high velocity changes. So why do we use AWS? And I've personally used AWS in about half of my MVPs when it comes to like pushing stuff out on there. AWS has, these are the 6 pillars of AWS, and you should know these in terms of developing them in general. But the ones we want to focus on today is operational excellence, cost saving, and performance efficiency. So AWS offers a lot. There's a huge amount of content that you want to use when it comes to AWS, which is both good and bad for you. Bad because you need to learn them, good because it has basically everything you need. Performance efficiency is like, if you need to demonstrate technical like impressiveness, AWS has got your back. If it can scale to meet the demands of something like Twitch, I'm sure it can scale to meet the demands of your MVP. And the third thing is cost saving. The big thing about MVP is that you want to build it for cheap, right? You don't want to invest so much money into like a product and then your client goes, I don't like this, change it, right? And AWS allows you to do it for cheap. You don't have to rent out boxes. You don't have to rent out 5 GPUs. You don't have to do any of that. You deploy it on a serverless instance and you're paying cents on the dollar. Using an AWS or some kind of microservice like Google Cloud or whatever has always helped me in MVP. It has never harmed me. The big thing is that if you want to collaborate with your client, use the same platform they're using. About half the clients that you're going to work with, around half the clients you're going to work with use some kind of microservice architecture. If you build out an MVP on a microservice architecture and then show them, hey, look, this is our MVP, it's built on AWS, you guys are using AWS, here's where we can insert it in your current existing platform, it does two things. The first thing is it proves technical feasibility, right? Hey, look, the idea we're throwing at you isn't just something we read in a paper. We actually built it ourselves. Look what we're showing you. That helps your pitch immensely. But the second big thing is it reduces complexity, right? If you already have something for them that they can just plug and play in their system and just kind of work on a little bit, it's going to seem a lot less daunting for them to implement your feature. If you already have like a, hey, look, just plug it into this little corner of your product, it's going to seem a lot better than we planned something out and you guys need to do the entirety of it. Two big benefits, like personally. And so let's understand AWS and deploying MVPs. Actually, before we go, any questions about why MVPs are important? Perfect. So let's talk about what we're going to do in this section of the presentation. We're going to learn 4 things. The first thing is we're going to learn how to gather MVP requirements, or I'm going to show you the surface level. It's a really complicated topic. And honestly, I can teach you like a 2 to 3 week course on how to gather MVP requirements, and you're still not going to learn all of it. So I'm going to teach you the basic rules, and I'm going to teach you how to like skim down. The second thing I'm going to teach you is constructing architecture diagrams. This is probably going to be one of the most useful skills you're going to get from this presentation. If you work technically, around 90% of your jobs will ask you to read, write, or critique an architecture diagram. We're going to talk about how to change an architecture diagram into like a planning phase, and then we're going to go through with implementing like a quick MVP. The first one is gathering MVP requirements. They're around roughly 4 steps. The first step is you need to see who is going to be impacted by your MVP. These are what we call stakeholders in the industry. Stakeholders is anybody that's going to be affected by the implementation of the feature you're proposing. And every stakeholder that is relevant to your project should see this MVP. Every stakeholder should get feedback, should give you feedback on the MVP. The second thing is MVP goals and requirements. When you're working with a client, you're going to tell them, we're developing an MVP, here are the goals and the requirements of our MVP. Do not overshoot this. I have fucked this up before. Sorry for my language. I have messed up entire contracts because I overshot MVPs. Do not overshoot an MVP. Focus on one thing. Promise limited functionality of it. Say that it's going to demonstrate exactly this, and this is the core focus. If you overshoot that, you will underimpress. You will overshoot and underdeliver. Underdelivering kills your project. So
by overshoot, you mean like over-explain?
Not over-explaining. You don't over-explain either. You're gonna make your client feel dumb. But overshoot as in like, for example, like my full product is we're scanning the web, the sentiment analysis thing. We'll scan the web and we'll tell you whether people like your product or not. Right? It's a common task in like NLP. If my MVP is like, oh, I'll scan the web and I'll tell you where people like it, I just basically implement the product for you, right? Don't do that. Basically, if you promise too much, what's going to happen is that your team has to work really hard in a short amount of time. When you stick the term MVP onto like a project that you're going to give them, they expect, a pretty fast timeline. That's the connotation behind an MVP. If you overpromise on an MVP, you have to deliver a lot in a short amount of time, you're going to screw things up. Don't do that. Focus on something. emphasize the one thing that you're going to give to them that will deliver them value in terms of demonstration. This is what this is about. Your goals and requirements should really clearly align with the stakeholder requirements. These two things should align pretty closely to each other. The third thing here is feedback. And the reason why it's such like it's a small set, it's not a lot of text, but it's super important, is that if you do this and you do this, but it turns out they're wrong, you mess up your entire project. Every step going on from this will be wrong. You need to make sure that your requirements from your stakeholders and your requirements from the MVP match the client requirements. So check, talk, give it to them, and actually set down meetings. One strategy that I've seen work really well is setting down like around a 25-minute interview with every stakeholder once you finish all the requirements. Hey, take a look through this. Is this what you need? Highlight sections that will be relevant to them and just elicit requirements from them. Because if you don't, and you implement your MVP, and then suddenly, right, you have one big stakeholder that's like, oh, this feature actually harms us. You're done. You're not implementing that project. And the fourth one is just, confirming again. Like, this is now documentation. You've gone from requirements to writing stuff down on paper, right? Here's the list of documentation things we need. Your clients will have project requirements. We will give you project requirement templates. You don't have to worry about the last step so much. It's just like a formality. Step 2 is constructing architecture diagrams. Basically, in your MVP, you will construct 2 different types of architecture diagrams. One is your whole product architecture diagram. What we call like I think the total org diagram. It depends on what company you go to, they'll call it different things. But basically, what the point of an architecture diagram is, especially on AWS, is to outline the flow of services and basically tell you as somebody or who's reading it for the first time, how something roughly works technically. An architecture diagram is kind of useless without context. It's not totally useless, but without context, it's kind of worthless. But with given context, if I explain to you the point of an architecture diagram, and then I give you an architecture diagram, you're expected to be able to go through this and kind of get a rough understanding of how a system works. This is actually something that I made a week ago for the current project I saw pitched to you earlier. This is an architecture diagram, and honestly, yeah, I'll go through the big pieces, right? You should, before reading an architecture diagram, understand A, the context of the architecture diagram, and I told you this, but B, the technical requirements of the architecture. What is it trying to serve? What are the big requirements of that architecture, right? In our case, we want to serve an easy development environment, hence why our development environment is so huge, right? And we want to have a simple production environment, hence why our production environments are so small compared to a development environment. Those kind of requirements of your architecture are equally as relevant to you as the context of your architecture. What's up?
Can you differentiate between development environment, production environment, and staging?
Yes, this is a great question. So in a professional software industry, you'll have these 3 environments usually. The development environment is where people play around, right? This is where I want to test this feature out internally. I want to build this new model out. I want to do X, Y, and Z. It's a crazy idea that you throw around into. Staging is basically where I take everything from the development, but I use actual data on it. The point of a staging environment is I want to simulate an environment as close to what the client sees as I possibly can. So usually what this would mean is that I have the same amount of data that my clients do. I'm just running it with my development feature. And the production is what development clients actually see. And so the other requirement here is that we needed the staging production environment because we're swapping in models a lot, right? When you're changing a lot of things really rapidly, you want to have a staging environment. And this is that's not necessarily like an AWS thing. It's kind of a global thing. Every company that you work on that is big will have a staging production environment, and it's kind of important to understand that the reason why that is. And so let's break this down a little bit, right? Where do I start? Yeah, so basically, if you look at the arrows will tell you A, the flow of actions, and B, the flow of data. In AWS, they're kind of synonymous to each other. We treat people doing something as the same thing as data doing something, because every action that somebody does has data. So if you want to view it as an action movement or a data movement, it's the same thing, basically. And so what is this? Data scientists are experimenting with, even if you don't know the services, you should still be able to kind of get a rough understanding of what's happening. Data scientists are working with SageMaker. I don't know what SageMaker is, but it's experimenting with something. So I'm assuming they're experimenting with data. They're training models. Okay, that's useful. A baseline, I'm pretty sure that means that they're just testing out the models. They're storing it somewhere, right? The movement of the baseline somewhere. Oh, they're moving something here, and they're moving something to a registry, but that's going straight into my production and staging environments. Well, I'm assuming that probably means they're training a model, they're moving a model into some kind of registry, and they're moving a model here and here. You should be able to kind of break down things like that. It's going to take you some practice, and don't worry, we'll go through simpler examples. But basically, that's how things would work. You look at your arrows, you look at the movement of data, and you try to see how different pieces function with each other. Let's go to another example. This is, oh, wow, this was tough. I forgot about this one. Yeah, so again, you identify the people outside first. You're like, okay, and this is very conveniently labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so you know where to focus, right? So you look one is outside. Okay, so you have your providers, your mobile application, you have your customer, the website. I'll tell you right now. Oh yeah, what's up?
It's an idea. It might be interesting to ask anybody to explain this.
Oh yeah, actually, let me tell you the context. I'll tell you the context. This is a taxi app. So your providers are taxi drivers, and your customer is your taxi. So does anybody want to take a shot as to what this kind of general thing means?
No one knows to take a shot.
You can be wrong. I spent an hour kind of getting through this because I actually implemented this a few years ago as like a prototype for one of the things I was doing. Not this exact one, it was pretty close. But no, I took a couple hours to understand this. So if you get it wrong, it's okay. Any shots? Yeah, go ahead.
Is that the front end for
That's correct. That is the front end. So if you look at it, right, it makes sense why it's the front end. What's the first thing that our customers see? The mobile phone. Where does the mobile phone, what's the first thing that points to? The web UI. So in our mind, it's like, okay, so the first movement of data from a phone to our application is the web UI. So this probably means our front end. Okay, let's see. We do all these things. I don't know what this front end is. Like static website, I can assume that just means a website, but I have no clue what this is. It sends data. This front end sends data to some kind of API plane. I have not a clue what an API plane is. You will understand it when you read another piece. But this API plane sends something that's AWS location services. Oh, I just assume that this is tracking my location. And I assume that this is going into some kind of database. Like DB means database. Or this is where it's going to all my data is. Right? And with the providers, it's the same thing. Oh, look, this is going here. Okay, so my taxi drivers send their data in as well as look at the web app. So assuming what's happening is that I'm calling some kind of function to grab data from my location services to display back here. And then I'm storing both of these things at some data plane. You should be able to like kind of break up things like that pretty quickly. But it's kind of hard when you don't know what these things are. Like I know what most of these things are, so it's a little bit unfair. So what we're going to do is you're allowed to go search online. I want you to explain to a partner what this is. Look online, you'll be able to look at your icons and stuff. You can look at AWS cheat sheets and they'll show you it, or you can just search up the individual things. But this should give you a hint as to what the context is. And the other hint is that this should be infinitely scalable. Those are 2 hints. But look online, I'll give you like, I don't know, 5 minutes to look online and figure out what this does. Yeah, groups of pairs, whatever groups you feel comfortable with, but 2, 3. The first hint is that this is the content. It's a web application architecture. Okay. The second hint is that it should be infinitely scalable. So, hey, what's up?
What's the difference between the architecture for tech stack?
An architecture is what you implement the tech stack on. So, for example, your tech stack might be like MongoDB React, right? That's a very typical like and NGINX, right? But what's my server that I'm running? How do I scale it to meet a million people a month? How do I do X, Y, Z? How do I save? Where do I save MongoDB? Right. So your tech stack is the tooling you use to develop your product. Your architecture is the infrastructure that your product lies on top of.
Wait, is this supposed to not have any arrows?
Yeah. Some architecture diagrams won't have arrows, but If they don't have arrows, you can assume they pretty much mean bidirectional. But if there's no arrows, it means that the direction of data isn't important. The connection of data is more important.
How is Amazon Group 5.3 different from the cloud? It is the more.
Oh, this is a good one. Route 53 is meant to. Oh, this is a good one. Basically, Route 53 is built on top. They're not exactly the same.
Yeah.
You can imagine Route 53 as being a more narrow version of API gateway.
Oh, okay.
So 53 is kind of like an internet highway, and you basically want it to be like, oh, if it's not for really big services, I'll give you a 53 instance.
I see.
Like if it's for like something that a client sees and you want it to be cached, you want auto caching in there, you want like a lot of the stuff that a commonly visited website would want, like auto DNS protection, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you would give it 53, which is basically a more secure and more like, structured version of API. But if I want just like, oh, I want like a REST API, or I want something my application requests from. And if it's like my data, then I'll give it API.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But this is hard. If this is the first time I'm doing something like this, which I see ignore the snapshot. The snapshot one's complicated, but think of everything else.
It makes sense. Temporary storage area. I'm guessing it automatically reduces data.
Yeah.
To a certain time. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. And how is your the root volume different from the S3 bar is both storage spaces.
Okay.
But
Your root volume, what does root mean?
Yeah.
Right? What does volume mean?
Dot scheme.
No. Volume, okay, this is. God, I hate the computer science. They're so stupid. Volume doesn't always mean volume. Volume just means, oh,
Okay.
okay. So what this thing is like, it's kind of like, you know how you have an operator and it's built on root.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your core stuff. This is your core functionality. Like this is your system data. This is your data that you actually use. They're de-attached to each other because you want your system data to get.
Yeah.
Like you ever build computers have their storage on the system.
Yeah.
Like their OS, their big data on hard drive.
Okay.
Same as your data is start with
Yeah.
I
see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody.
Hints, guesses, anything, give me something. Actually, Mr. President,
So the.
actually, explain this part,
Yes. So the www.example.com that basically sends an IP address to Amazon Cloud 53, which in turn directs it to the elastic load balance. The elastic load balance is basically if it's too much load on like that specific request. What does it do with it? Like if it's too much load, then it goes to a loading screen and like not available. If there's not, then it goes to VPC to server. And then the server decides what to do with it.
perfect, that's pretty much accurate. You're missing one thing. Load balancing, when it comes to, oh, this is like such a quirky thing, but auto scaling group means that it can generate as many EC2 instances as you need. So it will never actually return you a 404. They'll never return you like there's too much data. The load balancing, which is auto-generate a new EC2 instance, and then it will always serve you back something. This is what I meant by the requirement is infinitely scalable. It would just be slower, but it'll still be infinitely scalable. Yeah.
So is this just like a content delivery network type thing?
Close. This is the second.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anybody want to take a guess at what this entire thing is?
It's kind of just like just like showing videos to like asking to follow like. It's like asking like I want to see this video and it's just sending it the video that you want to see.
Yes, he said it was a content delivery network. Let's walk through why this content delivery network makes sense. Your cloud front is like, I don't know how to explain it. It's basically like, it's if you have a cloud storage unit and then you want to put a front end on that cloud storage unit, it's put cloud front on there. Makes sense, cloud front. S3 is just the most generic kind of storage. This is it's kind of S3, but it's just like kind of expandable. It's basically infinitely expandable is the term for these. And data is where you store your images and volume. I mean, images and like videos. Root is where you store your system information. So like anything that's super crucial and gets accessed a lot, you want to store in your root volumes. And this is put in auto scaling, so it's infinitely scalable. What's up, actually?
So the auto scaling makes it infinitely scalable.
Makes certain things infinitely scalable.
Okay.
You need to read about
The
it.
volume and data volume are just storing.
Yeah, just storage. Basically, this is a website. That's all it is. It's a website that can handle infinite amounts of traffic. That's literally, if you put a website and then you put a CDN together, you just get a website that delivers content. That's what this is. But this will, if a client ever asks you, hey, I need a website that can handle spikes of traffic a lot. That's all this is. So let's talk about what an MVP looks like. This is an AI-based MVP. An AI-based MVP is basically you want to deploy an AI model somewhere, and then you just have people hit that API and then give it back. This is the most basic type of AI MVP, and I implement this very commonly. This is very commonly implemented among the industry in terms of like minimum features. So reading this is really reading diagrams like this is difficult. I wasn't good at it. It took me years to be good at it. I'm still not good at it. How do you become better? Is you just read examples. This is AWS has 352 examples of architecture diagrams that clients actually use. So if you just read these examples, they'll give you and kind of walk through. They have examples plus walkthroughs. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, and another thing that you guys can do is just think of some project that you want to do and just try to draw a diagram like this for them.
Yeah. All the projects we will ask you to do will have a diagram. So it might be a good idea to just read some, get a grip. All the projects we ask you to do will have diagrams. If you work in the technical sphere and you're anywhere involved in project management, you will have an architecture diagram. I've done, I think, a total of around 48 projects now, and around 40 of them had architecture diagrams. So this is probably one of the more useful skills. If you can't write one, which not a lot of you will be asked to draw one, those are usually given to your software engineers and developers. You will most always be certainly asked to read one. Because when you develop an MVP, you will have to point where on an architecture diagram your MVP lies. So if you can't write one, be sure that you can read one. So let's talk about dividing and planning an MVP. Yeah, so basically in a project, you will draw your MVP diagram, you draw your actual diagram. You will develop two plans for them. You will develop a big high-level overview of how you plan to implement your architecture, and then you will develop a small plan of how are we going to do the MVP. These are two very important things. They're two separate things. Keep them separate from each other. Your MVP is a different product than your actual product. General tips is you aim for high velocity. What this means is that you break up your things into smaller goals that you can hit more frequently. It's a lot easier for you to track your progress when it comes to these kind of sprints, because this is going to sound really bad, but MVPs should be 2 to 3 weeks long in development at the most. Anything longer is no longer an MVP. You're implementing a small product. Anything shorter, and you're just not giving your engineering team enough time. You aim for 2 to 3 weeks, because if you aim for longer, you're focusing on more than one core functionality. This is where we differ from startups. Startups MVPs are 3, 4, 5, 6, even years long, right? Consulting MVPs focus on one product. We don't have 3, 4, 5, 6 years long. We have 2 weeks to give a pitch. We have a month to give a pitch. This is where you should focus your 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, and just the big thing is that you want to be lean and agile during the MVP process. Yeah, what's up?
So when you develop an MVP, you're saying that we gotta keep the tickets really small.
Yeah.
Do you also categorize them in different, segments such as, okay, this is, the tickets for deployment, this is.
Yes. So, what he's talking about tickets and stuff, I should clarify. Tickets are basically to-do tasks. And we will have what we call a story, which is if I want to implement this feature of my MVP, I need to do this ticket, like this task first, this task first, this task first, that task first. But they're blocked from each other, right? So you can't have multiple people working on different parts of the story at the same time because they're blocked from each other. And if that is the case, you should have two separate stories. The big idea is that you want to assign like one person to a story in a team usually, and you should have 3 to 5 stories going on at any time for a small project. This whole idea is that you want to keep people working in parallel but related to each other. Your stories can't be so separate from each other that nobody else is working on something similar, but they can't be literally one story because you're gonna have people blocking each other and you're gonna have task management deviation. What's up? Tickets are to-do tasks. For example, if I say, let's make my grocery shopping a ticket, right? Or like cooking dinner is a ticket. So as a story, right? I'll break it up into tickets. First, I gotta do grocery shopping, then I gotta go clean the kitchen, then I gotta cook my food, and I gotta do X, Y, and Z from that, right? But a story here is that I might need to clean my kitchen first before I cook in my kitchen, right? So I can't have somebody cooking in the kitchen and cleaning the kitchen at the same time. I need to separate these two things. I need to keep these two things in one story and separate grocery shopping out. So I can have somebody doing the grocery shopping while somebody else is cleaning and cooking, right? The point of breaking up a big task into stories and then further along tickets is that you can see where you can parallelize things, see where you can have people collaborate, but also see where you can speed up the process.
I think another example, I don't know, I might be wrong, but it feels like this is similar to version control in GitHub where you divide these different tasks into small tasks and then you push it to the main project.
It's kind of similar, yeah. So, and the last point here is being lean and agile. What we mean by lean and agile is you want to suspend your routines. I typically have, during my MVP development process, I did not hold a single reflection meeting because it's 2 weeks. I'm not going to waste 3 hours of my team's time sitting down and looking back at 1 week's worth of work, right? We don't have time for that. During your MVP, it will be a little crazy. I have had periods of my life where I slept 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day for like 2 weeks straight. Actually, Ian and I were, during our MVP pitching, we were up at like 3 a.m. for 5 days straight. It will get a little crazy because you're asked to deliver a lot. But if you kind of hit these main goals, you're going to, and you, more importantly, use AWS so that you don't have to like manually do things, you can cut your time down by a lot. And so I want you to try to break this up. I want you to form groups of 3 and look at this and look at your, where can you parallelize things? What is a story? And then inside a story, what is it, like, what is a ticket? And, oh, by the way, what we call an epic is this. The entire thing is an epic. The story is the parallelized parts in the, like, sorry. Okay, so this is terminology used in product management. It's a very common structure of it's a very common structure of that we use. An epic is a huge project, right? This is an epic.
Yeah.
A story is what are the different parts of that epic that I can break up that multiple people can work on at the same time, right? Inside each story, you'll have tickets. So think of a ticket as a to-do task. Okay. Right. So for example, if I have something that's like build a website, right? Okay, so I'll have one of my stories for people running the content. So people writing the content, don't people like actual website running things. Another story might be building out like the front end, like designing the front. Another story might be building out the front, right? So these are things that people can work on at separate times, so that they don't block each other. And so when you have a small team, it's easy for you to see, like, okay, if I have 6 ethics, like 6 stories, and 4 members, I can see what people can work on so that people don't have to line each other. Like what might happen is that you might have 2 people working on that front end at the same time. They both make changes, and now they have to spend time resolving those changes. You don't have that time.
Got it. Wait, so we've got to figure out different stories and how they communicate with each other?
Yeah. Break this up into stories, and then break those stories into rough tickets. Don't be super precise. Just think of like this, and then from the stories, I'm gonna ask you like, what's the story? What's the things inside the story? Stuff like that.
Oh, he shared the slides with you on slide.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah, it's small. No, he shared the slides.
We build a lot, right? It's like one thing, I don't think they build it, just like trying to get it out. Then you have to see it, and you just think it's better.
Good, good. I tried using the names a lot of. I guess I sort of like here. Based on what you said, I had some to like like and it's fun and it's just like. Yeah.
These are kind of like independent, right? These are like, well, they're technically the same.
I think, yeah, like.
Look through the slide.
And
One thing like. So there's. Now I got device. Let's see. And after I go, how the devices pass.
I have a question.
Like,
So,
like.
where it says like data and engineers, that how many people we got?
The site.
Okay, so those are kind of two separate mistake points.
So when you have the second.
Kind of use something, there's just. I think that's. And
Is that,
again,
so what that guy was nothing.
well, if they don't tell you how many people.
It's not. Pretty simple, but these things. Like, to see exactly like how long it is.
So this, there's science.
And you basically have a zero event, which is
So I've already, that's that,
and then you train them model and then you
make your
you
new
evaluate them.
and then if it's good, I might get that.
No, you just put it on everything, then you can put it check 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's basically where you.
No, just.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, okay.
you can choose.
So yeah.
It's
It's
like-
like, when they- This one is like.
So where do you start deciding?
Oh, yeah.
You're like, you're feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially.
Also, during the evaluation process, you need a check or a-
Yeah. It was.
So now, you can say about the stage. So staging is where is there is no.
Good. All right, a few more minutes, guys. Couple more minutes. Okay, all right. Somebody want to tell me the first story? Go for it. Okay, go for it. That's perfect. That's exactly what I would have done. Yeah. Somebody else want to throw out the story there? Different one. Give me another one. There's many stories here. Give me another one. Yeah. Okay. Who else has another story for me? Go ahead. That's good. Yeah, no, I like that you specified the people. That's something you guys also should do in your stories. But not for right now. That's when you guys actually have your resources. Any last stories? There is one big story here that people seem to be missing. Go ahead. Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. So we're actually running. This is if you recall from the first deck I gave you. Here, let me scroll it to you. I think it's this one. No, here. This is actually this part of it is the same thing as what you just saw. Like this entire development part is the same thing as what you just saw. These endpoints are the same endpoints as what you saw. So basically, oops, we'll go back. Yeah, those are your stories. You have your creation story. You could put your registry story inside your creation. You could put it in your deployment, or you can make it its own story. I'd personally make it its own story. You could have this is your deployment story, and the hosting is like whatever. The hosting is the hosting, and the monitoring is its own separate story. You have a lot of different ways to do stories. This whole oh yeah, sorry, actually. Yes. You have okay. Google has its own view. Amazon has its own view. A body shop in China will probably have its own view. Those are the big three: development, staging, production. You have what we call optimization pipelines as well. So if you serve one client, if you serve 4 different clients, right? The 4 different clients personas, they use your core product, but they each have its own fundamental things, like each on its fundamental quirks. You would have 4 different environments for them. You would have client A, client B, client C, client D environments. They would not be in you would not have a production environment. You would not have a staging environment. You would have 4 production environments, 4 staging environments. That's one way you can look at it. If you're serving big SaaS clients, that's genuinely what you do. I've seen, oh God, I've seen governments use like a Fortran pipeline to AWS. If you guys don't know what Fortran is, it's the same thing they use to write nuclear weapons with. It's the stuff that's been around since the 60s. I've seen that piped into AWS before. So it's like a Fortran pipeline into development pipeline, and I wanted to blow my brains out working with that one. So no, your pipelines, when you draw out your environments and when you draw your things, the general rule of thumb is what types of people will be using this, and then you draw it based on that. You will, in general, see distinct groups. You would see 3 distinct groups. You would in general see your developers, you will in general see your testers, and you in general see your clients. And this is where the development, staging, and production environments, the ethos comes from. All right. So now you kind of know how to like why an MVP is important. You kind of know how to plan an MVP. You kind of know how to read MVP diagrams or read AWS diagrams in general and extract MVPs. This is just a test question. How would you extract an MVP from this? What would be if my client's like, I want to develop out a feature that routinely and reliably lets me train models and deploy models, right? Which is what this is. It's an environment to like automatically train and deploy models. What would your MVP be here? But yes, basically, you look at this, you think of the stories. This is a cool trick, by the way, and it's not necessarily the way to go 100% of the time, but this is just a trick that I've learned. You look at your stories. You have your creation, your registry, your code pipeline, and your hosting, right? You look at your stories. You pick one task from each story. If you have 4 stories here, I'll make it 1 task per story. So I'll have one little thing to make train models. I'll have one little thing to register models. I'll have one little thing to deploy models. And then if monitoring is a part of my MVP, I'll have that as monitoring as well. That's basic. That's a cool trick that you guys can do. It doesn't work 100% of the time. It's very situation dependent. But I think around 50 to 60% of the time, I've done that. I've just taken the stories that I've written, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll just build out small tasks for each story. I'll pipe them together into one MVP. But that's acceptable. Like if you took one SageMaker pipeline, you showed me what was roughly a registry, and then you showed me some kind of code to deploy it, each 1 task long. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a good MVP. I can take that. And your clients would too. All right, let's do the fun part. We'll actually deploy an MVP now. We're gonna deploy something that looks kind of like this. I'm getting rid of the Lambda. I just realized now that like some of you guys don't have coding experience, so the Lambda isn't gonna be super useful for you guys. So we're gonna run the API gateway into a SageMaker endpoint. Let's pull up your domains. Pull up your consoles. Lambda is like a connector. Lambda is like, if you write code, you can basically have AWS run code for you. That's what Lambda does. All right, so let's launch a thing. What's my screen? You click launch. You should have when you click into your domain, you should have a default user. And then if you click launch, you can click studio. It'll launch you into a AWS domain studio. And it's gonna take you a little bit of time because it's slow. But basically what this is doing is this is setting up a server on the AWS side. And the AWS server is going to let you experiment with models. But we're not going to do we're not doing experimenting today. We're just launching something. Your guys' might take a little bit longer to launch. Yes, studio is what you're going to launch. So it's gonna take you a couple minutes to launch. So let me know when everybody's on like the loading screen for it. And then we're gonna do the other part of things. What's up? Dude, I honestly am like, I'm not a huge fan of how AWS does shit. It's really annoying when you try to build things. Like actual good engineering is kind of annoying on it. But for quick, dirty stuff like this is great. I love it. Put my body down. Yeah, is everybody on the loading screen? Yeah, that's the loading screen. Are you on is everybody on the loading screen? What? Really? You want to just use? Okay, come here. You can use mine. I'll walk you through how to do it. Who doesn't have it? I'll walk you through how to do it on my computer. Yeah, come up. Who doesn't have their domain set up? Come up here. Actually, there's too many people. Never mind. Okay, I thought there was going to be 2 of you guys. I'll be like, okay, we'll come up here and do it. Can you pair up with somebody who has their domain? Yeah, load up. It's okay. You don't have. Can you guys pair up with people who have a domain? Sorry, I really thought that you guys had domains. Oh, okay. That's okay. So one cool thing about SageMaker is that it's basically used by every person on the planet who wants to run AI, or at least a good chunk of them. You can search up Hugging Face. I don't know. Let's do sentiment analysis Hugging Face. Hugging Face. We'll search up a Hugging Face model. What's a good model to run with? You can choose any model, really. Let's do Finbird. I like Finbird. And the cool thing about Hugging Face is Hugging Face already writes code for you to deploy a model. You click deploy SageMaker, and it'll have a bunch of code that you can already run. A little bit janky, but we'll run it. We'll copy it. We'll go back to our little studio, open launcher, and let's write a Python file. And we'll just copy and paste. And we'll save this. Has everybody who's able to do this done this? We'll do that process again. You would click, if you go back to your home, or you'll click open launcher, and then you can click Python file. Oh, you go to any Hugging Face. Hugging Face, by the way, for all of you guys who don't know, Hugging Face is like a library for models. So people push models to Hugging Face when they're like, oh, check out this model. It's a very open source community. I personally use it for a lot of things. I've used it for a lot of MVPs, for example, when the client will tell you like, oh, we want like a sentiment analysis model, or we want somebody to tell us what our reviews are saying. Is our reviews good or bad? You go on Hugging Face, you search up sentiment analysis, and you just plug a model into their system, and you're okay. Hugging Face is good for that kind of thing. You go to deploy, and then Amazon SageMaker. Let's do yours. Sorry. Yeah. You click copy, and then you go to your studio thing, and then on your home you can click open launcher, and then there's a little Python file thing you can click, and then you can just copy it in there, and it should turn out something like this. Looks like this. Sentiment analysis. Finbird. Search up Finbird. We love Finbird. Search up Fin, just type in it. No, yeah, no, here.
Oh,
Oh, Finbird. You want to search up Finbird there. It's like a financial bird thing. It's like financial terms. Click that. Yeah, that one. Wait. All right. Yeah. If anybody isn't able to set this up, just let me know after the little presentation, and I'll walk you guys through setting this up as well. All right. Is everybody roughly here? Good. Everybody. All right. So you go to launcher again. You click on Open Code Console. Oh wait, no, sorry. Yeah, no, never mind. Not Open Code Console. You click on Open Image Terminal. My bad. SageMaker is kind of stupid because it doesn't default things for you. So if you do conda env list, right? It'll tell you conda is. I'm not gonna explain conda actually. I'm not gonna explain this part because this part is kind of stupid. Just remember to type conda activate base when you open up any image terminal in SageMaker. It's dumb. It's stupid. If you want, I'll get into the reasons why later. But just type in conda activate base whenever you open an image terminal. And then let's see, you do Python, whatever your file is called. In my case, it's called untitled. Let me see. What's up? Which one? Oh, you typed the wrong one. Image terminal. There you go. Did you set up your domain by any chance yet? Your code terminal, you can run Python on it. Your image terminal is like your normal terminal. Oh, I know why. Yes, you can. Oh, this is so odd. Why is it like this? Oh, there you go. I know how to use. Oh, it's setting it up right now. Yeah, so you have something that's working. Oh, launch. Here you go. I'll walk you through. It's gonna open. It's gonna take a little bit to load. No worries. All right. Is everybody to this point where they can run stuff? Is it? That sucks. What's up? Did you create your account?
Yeah, I do.
Next, set in MFA. Yeah. It's gonna give you some kind of scary error. Once again, this is just because it's kind of dumb. I'm pretty sure I should deploy an endpoint. Where is it? Wow. Oh, I'm stupid. Sorry, guys. You don't want to run it on your thing. Go to your. Where is it? Endpoints. Go back to your studio real quick. I'll show you the quick change. I forgot that. Oh, I forgot that they did this. This is so dumb. They changed the terminal instance, and now they're gonna make everybody run it on a notebook. Okay, it's a small change. It's a really small change, and I'll explain the change in a little bit. But you open your launcher, you open your notebook, you click create notebook, and it should create a notebook for me. There you go. Oops. That's karma. That's karma. That is karma. That is karma. That's on me. But you copy and paste the code into the notebook instead of running it on a Python file. It's dumb because the notebook environment is better than the terminal environment. See, this is the thing about AWS is that you're gonna run into a lot of these smaller things where it's like, oh, this is like a small thing that you have to do. And if there is an error, you can usually search it up and people have done it, but copy and paste into your notebook instance, and then you can just run your notebook instance. And let me walk you through what this code does. Or yeah, I'll walk you through it. So it basically it tries to get your role. So every every account has associated with it like a certain role, and the role gives you permissions to do things. So it gets you a role. In this case, SageMaker has a default role called execution role when you run it in a notebook. This is the hub. This is where Hugging Face stores the stuff, and then we can just call a Hugging Face model. And after that, we'll just deploy the Hugging Face model to some kind of inference. And once you finish running this, what you should see is that if I go to my home and I go to deployments and endpoints, I should have a little SageMaker endpoint. So we're going to get to this point first, and then once everybody gets here, we're going to keep going. Yeah, what's up? Oh, wow. Okay. Remember what I said? Can you search up Hugging Face? And then search up Hugging Face Finberg. That'll get you exactly what you need. So yeah, the goal is to get here. You there? What's up? Oh, it's just taking a little bit to launch up. Yeah, no, it will do that sometimes. There's nothing you can do except just like sit there and stare at it and cry a little bit. I cry. Dude, AWS is a pain sometimes. You can reload it if you want, but what it's doing basically is that it's trying to allocate like a CPU for you. So this is what notebook kernel means. It's basically trying to like ping the servers like, okay, can I get this man like some kind of CPU that we can use to run stuff? And what is it doing? That's what it's doing right now. But sometimes refreshing works. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. I'm not gonna make you participate in this kind of thing. All right, what's up? Okay, you're good. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so AWS is kind of dumb. Here, I'll explain to you up here. You're gonna see something a little scary. Don't be too surprised. So basically, SageMaker, like everything you do in AWS, you have to get permission to do. This is good and this is bad. The good thing is that nobody can steal your accounts and run a lot of software on it. The bad thing is that you have to give yourself permission for everything. So SageMaker, when it launched up, automatically gave itself these permissions. Specifically, the one that it gave itself and the one that we're using right now is called the execution role. So if you look at the execution role, it'll tell you what it's allowed to do, right? It's allowed to, it's full access to SageMaker. This is great. It's allowed to have Canvas, which is the tool we're about to use. And it's called a execution policy, right? And so what's happening in the code, right, if you pull it up, is if you go back to the code, is the first line, this line here, it's asking SageMaker for the execution rule, the one that it's just used. And then it's using that permission to like launch stuff. But no, AWS is finicky in permissions and stuff. And so, oh look, it's done. So it predicted neutral, which is kind of what I expected because it's not I said, I love you, I like you, I love you to a financial model. Let's say something it actually understands. The stock market is going down. Actually, no, I should test it elsewhere. I should test it here. And you can also test your stuff locally as well once it's done creating. I think it's called input. If you go to, on the left-hand side, you have deployments. You go to endpoints and you just click on the endpoint. It'll open up the thing. The stock market is going down. I wonder what this gives me. Oh, Oh, text, that's why you get it. Text. There we go. It says it's negative. It doesn't understand love, it understands stocks. I love it. But yeah, this is how you can test just internally that this is what you're looking for. All right, is everybody at the point where they can, yeah, what's up? What? Oh, okay. What this is doing is, this is basically, AWS is slow to confirm things. So this is something you guys are gonna notice when you guys work with something that's not client side, when you guys do development stuff, and your developers will complain about it all the time. But AWS is slow to confirm things, but fast to deploy things. So to actually do something, it just doesn't tell you it does it until like 4 seconds later. So it's not great. But if you use it to deploy real-time things, it's great on real-time things. This is, once you deploy this endpoint, like this is kind of what most companies use. I've worked with companies that have their entire data structure on like endpoints like this. So it's the same idea as what most companies are doing right now. Like if you look at the execution length, and this is really important, right, for you guys in the future. It's not gonna be so important for consulting projects right now for MVPs, but in the future, you're gonna have an execution requirement, like an execution length requirement. This gives you in 378 milliseconds, which is, it's a little bit slow, but it's faster than what most companies are gonna require you. And it's definitely faster than anything you're gonna do by yourself. Like this is the fastest you're gonna get on by like doing things. So if you're looking for real-time stuff, AWS is also really good for that. What's up? Let me look at. You didn't put text.
It's text on it. Oh shit.
Yeah, there you
My
go.
bad. My
You're good.
bad.
All right, who's here? Who's not here? I should definitely. It's 2 different questions. I realize I'm stupid. Who's here? That's not me. Who's not here? Who's not here? Okay. All right. What's up? Yeah. You can just click the run button here. There you go. And it's gonna take you a little bit of time to get. Oh, look, it's already running stuff, and it's gonna give it a couple minutes, and then we'll be done. Yeah. If you click deployments on the arrow, click on the arrow here, and you click endpoints, it should probably already set up something. Yeah, it's setting up something right now. So once it's in a couple minutes, it should be done. You should be good to go. What's up? Oh, okay. So, how do I hugging face? Hugging face. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No put. See, this is why AWS sucks, and I hate AWS. AWS has a set standard for everything, but that standard doesn't make sense, right? So it's there and it's not intuitive. We call text because the AWS standard for endpoints demands text. We call inputs on the file because the AWS standard for inputs, models run on notebooks demands inputs. It's not nice. I don't like it, but it's whatever. Yeah, no, this is when you leave it to your body shop to do, or you hire overseas. I don't know, one of the two. Both, preferably. Right? Who's not here yet? Is everybody here? Phenomenal, perfect. So this is where things get a little bit messy. We're gonna play around with permissions a bit because you're gonna need some pretty special permissions to do what I'm about to do. Let's go to search up roles. Right. Create a new role. It's AWS service. And then you want to type in what is it? API gateway. And you want to, can you type one? Yeah, let's type in one API gateway. Create role, yeah. Yeah. So API gateway, create roles, and then you want to click API gateway in your use case. Use case is API gateway. When you click next, yeah, don't worry. I'm walking you through the steps now. Only half of you guys will actually need to know this. But it's good to know. It's definitely something that's like if you're running to use this, it's good to know. Lambda is something you can use everywhere. Lambda is like I want this to run code. Any type of code that you want, it will run. I've done stuff to print screens on, like I've print ASCII art with Lambda before on like an Arduino thing. It's lovely. ASCII is like Lambda is like you just run anything. Yeah. So if you need like code, just run in general, you use Lambda. But if you don't need it, you can avoid Lambda because Lambda gives you actually a pretty big time penalty unless you set it up correctly. Right. So you click next here. Meaningful name. Let's just do API gateway access, or just do API gateway. Doesn't really matter. And then you click create. Where's my mouse? And then you click create role. All right. You should search it up here too. API gateway. I think this is what it was. Once you have this, what you want to do is you also want to add a permission. We'll attach policies, and we'll attach the SageMaker full access policy. We'll attach you. There you go. So what that just did is that we gave it a gateway API access, and then we gave it SageMaker access. Can anybody guess what we're about to do with this role? Here, I'll show you again. Go to here. I'll remove it for you. I'm just redo it. Add permissions, attach policies, and you search up SageMaker full access. And you just add permissions. You add permissions at the top right, and then you click attach policies. So SageMaker full access. Search up SageMaker full access. Generally, you don't want to give full access, but for the MVP purposes, it's whatever. Let me go through this. Yeah, what's up? You do add permissions. Oh, okay. So like here, I'll show you. If I'm on IAM, I go to roles. I search up API gateway. I click on API gateway, and then I have add permissions. You good? Have you added the role? We're all good? I think I'm dancing one today. All right, has everybody added their roles? Are we good to move on? Full access. Full access. Yeah. Get used to doing this, by the way, because if you guys prototype on stuff, it's especially the technical people. The front end people, it's good to know. It's good to understand what access and what roles you have, but especially the actual development backend people, yeah, you kind of need to know a lot of this because you will like need to know a lot of the SageMaker stuff by heart. Like not SageMaker, like a lot of the role access stuff kind of by heart. There's only 853 roles, guys. It's what's up? Hey Siri, what's up? I haven't seen you in a while. No, you're not. No, you're not. What's up? About 0.06 cents like a minute. So about like you think about 6 cents an hour. But for you, it's free. It's actually less than 6 cents because we're running it on a smaller instance. So 6 cents an hour gets you around 2,000 clients per minute. So that's what I've run. I've done 2,000 clients a minute on 6 cents an hour. You can, yeah, this is what I'm telling you. Like most companies do this because it's really cheap. Like I've run, there's this one electronics manufacturing company in Germany that checks around 1 million products a day on like a SageMaker instance, and it does it for like $20 a day, $30 a day. Right? Like this is what we're talking about. Like if you can propose an AWS instance like this and you can say, look at your system, it's dog trash, it's 100,000 a month, I can do it for $30. Right? What's up? Yeah. So what we're doing right now is we're setting up a role that can access an API gateway and access SageMaker. So whenever you do something that you're not doing, you're trying to automate something, right? You want to make a role for it. So whenever you're automating a process, you want to make a role for that automation. The big point behind this is that AWS will give you permission as a root user, which means you have all permissions. You can do whatever the hell you want, but it will not give you permission as some kind of foreign entity. So if I want to automate the connection between a gateway and SageMaker, I need to make a role for that automation. which is basically what we're doing right now. Great question. I forgot to actually do that. Right, is everybody good to go? We have this set? What's up? So this is gonna be a really simple one. This is gonna be I'm gonna hit a REST API. I'm gonna send a request to an API, and it's gonna give me the evaluation of my sentiment. It's gonna just return a sentiment. But even to do that, SageMaker doesn't expose its API publicly. So even to do that, you have to do this. What's up? Hmm? Hmm? Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so let me give you an example. AWS used to have this bug where if you ran a special you ran a special input, it will access another service, which was okay because most permissions were only granted service to service. But what if you had an instance? What if you had a God role? What you're basically saying is a God role, right? If I had a God role, I can exploit that bug to run any instance of AWS on somebody else's credit card. This is a securities thing, and I don't want to get too into depth as to why securities matter. I feel like you guys should understand why security matters, but for saying, I feel like it should be okay. It should be kind of self-explanatory, but basically, you want to assign for MVPs. It's not such a big deal because when you're done with the MVP, you're going to delete it, and you're going to share the MVP with 3 people. But in actual development, your clients are going to be like, okay, so sometimes if they're good clients, they'll ask you what security roles are expected of like different automations. If they're bad clients, they don't understand AWS, then it's whatever. You don't even need to tell them. But you generally don't want to give full access like this. We're just doing it for MVPs. All right. Everybody good? We're going? What we're gonna do next is we're gonna go search up API gateway. Ta-da. Let's do a REST API build. And we're gonna just create a new API, call it whatever. Yeah. So this is something many of you will become familiar with. It's an API config screen. That's all there is to it. There's not a lot yet. Did you guys click REST API build? Yeah, did you guys just click create API? What are you on? Why are you there? You didn't click REST API, you clicked HTTP gateway. I'll go back to it. Yeah. What's up? Ah, very good. What's up? Oh yeah, you didn't click REST API, I'm pretty sure. Did you just click normal API?
No.
Oh. Oh, you're on the old console. Okay, yeah, if you see something weird like that, you might be on the old console too. Where are you on? Okay, go for it.
What is it?
Oh, I know why. Here, I got you. What the? Yeah, if you guys see something at the top that says, try out this new console, try out the new console, please. You're good?
Yeah.
Just, I got you. Here, I know how to fix it. There you go. You're good. Yeah. All right, is everybody here? Perfect, let's go. We're gonna create a resource. We're gonna call it sentiment. And then we're gonna just click create resource. And then you're gonna click on this resource. And then you see a little methods thing. You're gonna click create method. Basically what we're doing is we're creating a way you can access things. That's what a method is. Method is a way you can access things. Method type, we're gonna say post here, and region. So you should pick whichever region is in your top left here. So I'm in US East 1, that's my default. So I will pick US East 1. Make sure you pick the right region because AWS will not connect if you don't pick the right region. And let's search up. Yeah. Yeah. AWS apparently, dude. Wow. How we doing? Yeah, stage making runtime. I'm waiting for these people to catch up, and then I'm going to keep going. But is everybody here? Okay, we're waiting for them to get here. Okay. Right. What are you doing? You good? Click on it. Click on it. Create method. You doing okay, man? No more. No worries.
things, like, this, even if you're a consultant, I've used this as a consultant side, like, just to like quickly validate ideas. But as a developer, knowing how to do these is super important. Because I think architecture diagrams, for example, 9 out of 10 of the jobs you're gonna have will require you to work with architecture diagrams. Deploying this super quickly will kind of, like, the process that you just went through here is kind of similar to your process in your job. You will get a model, you will get, hey, can we just host this model really quickly? We want to test a prototype on it. Sure, this is the same process you're gonna go through. It's the same idea. Like, this is about a shortened version of what I go through for half of my job, like half of my project on these. But yeah, so in Brunei, definitely a developer, sometimes you're a consultant. It's good to know the process of your consultant. In industry, any job that requires you to work with models, any job on the deployment side of models, even on the experiment side. As a researcher, I run with AWS all the time.
Yeah, if you wanna like deploy the projects that we essentially plan for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Use this.
Please use AWS, do not run it locally.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
We're not running it.
So you can train your own custom models and then use the exact same process to
Yeah.
deploy the custom model.
Yeah, you can train your own
You
model.
can use that API endpoint to essentially access it from the rest.
We're not.
Okay, that's too much for this, but some of your engineers will know how to do that. But basically what you do is, here, I show you.
Oh, this will be fun. Do I still remember my curl? I sound. I'll show you. I still remember this. Yeah, I still do. I still have the, you basically, in real life development, you send something this equivalent of like an API. I'll explain REST APIs. How websites talk to each other on the internet is they send something called a HTTP request. So what this is basically like I know your link. I'm gonna ask you for information. And it's the same here. The link you're gonna use is this link. I'll tell you. Give me a sec. Sentiment. And if you deploy API, you click stage. I click so you can use stage testing. Okay. You actually deploy it. This will be the link you use. And then you go to, say, Postman is a good example. Like this is I will use this link. I'll do sentiment. Websites will use the same link. Like your application is going to use the same link. It's going to send this text and then it's going to receive these numbers, right? So it's the same idea. Like your website or whatever application you end up using is going to copy this link, hard code that link into your MVP. It's going to send this information along and it's going to receive this information along. So the sending and receiving process part isn't necessarily relevant. You just need to know it's a REST API, it's HTTP. That's a networking thing and it's not really relevant to your position. What's up?
Wait, can you show how you got that?
Yeah. So basically when I just deployed it,
But if you go back to your thing, you should have something here that's like deploy API. Basically what you have right now is a staged API, it's not actually deployed yet. So when you click deploy API, you type it up, type some name for it, some stage for it, and then it should come up with this. And then if you honestly just expand and then you expand and then you click sentiment and then you click sentiment here. You click copy this thing and then you do dash sentiment is all you need because you have a dash sentiment underneath your.
How much money does a person earn out of this thing?
Oh, Chris makes 240. Plus 40 in stock, so like 280 TC. He's a senior solutions architect at AWS. I know an engineer who developed like it was like a Google's like distinguished or something. He made when GCP first came out, he was like using AWS for like prototype parts of GCP, and he made like 500K a year on it. I know. I've paid for AWS solutions. Like I paid a body shop in Singapore like I think 70-80K for like a 2-week project before. I think I've had clients pay 60 for a 2-week body shop, like 2-week MVP on AWS. It depends. You get a lot of money. Like if you do AWS well, you get a lot of money. If you understand AWS, the minimum bar is understanding how microservices and cloud services work. You don't need to know it really well. You just need to like be able to stumble your way into things like this. But reading the architecture diagrams is a huge skill. That doesn't go away. No matter what position you take in tech, if you take any position in technologies, you will need to interact with architecture diagrams. That stays forever. Doing this kind of thing, I would estimate like probably half your jobs would use this. Probably 2/3 of your jobs if you're like in data, we're AI ML people, so almost everybody's gonna have to do this eventually at some point. If you work at a startup, you're definitely gonna have to be doing this. Yes.
Or you can deploy using C.
No, please don't. Never do that. Yeah, so, starting next week, when we do advanced workshops, I'm gonna throw in a pitching exercise, because I want you guys to get in the regular habit of pitching. I pitched to you guys later already this morning. I want you guys to just, what we're gonna do for the next, because we're running out of time, so what we're gonna do next time is that we're gonna teach you something, and we want you to just come up with a 2 to 3 minute oral pitch on the idea, on like an idea using the concept we teach you. So if you guys want a little exercise, there's 2 exercises you can do. If you're really technical, you can try to train a model in AWS. It should cost you like $0. And you can try to deploy a model after training it. That will teach you how to like actually run it, but it's not relevant to all of you guys. It's still be relevant to some of you guys. The second thing you guys can do, which is gonna take less of your time, is explain, like, imagine an MVP you developed using this technology that you just learned, and then try to have a 2-minute pitch. And make two of those initiatives. One of them is like a low-level engineer, the other one is like a director, like CTO, director of technologies. And if you can pitch the same MVP to both of those people with the same technologies, then you're fine. And you kind of understand the problem. Okay. Anything else before we wrap up? All right, feedback from anybody. What do you guys think it was too fast, too slow? Give it to me straight. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. I couldn't care. I'm not joking. I want to happy. What's up?
I think it was great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think I learned a ton. It was a little fast paced. I think just like if there's like slides, just like on each step, a screenshot, like it's like click here, click here, click here.
Okay.
They can also save time by having to like help.
You're right. We'll incorporate that next time. Or maybe